the number of runs put on by Australia, the likelihood of a cliffhanger was always minimal, but certainly Bangladesh fought, and we had 714 runs scored in this contest. So overall, for all the fans out there, it was plenty of entertainment, no matter which side you supported. Just to confirm exactly what's happened here, a victory for Australia, but not the kind of victory some might have envisaged when you make 381 for 5 against a side, well, you haven't played enough of, and a side considered a minnow maybe 10 or 15 years ago. 333 for 8, a fabulous performance, a fabulous fighting reply from Bangladesh that included 100 from their pocket dynamite, Mushfiqur Rahim, 102 not out of 97, and some great contributions from Mahmudullah, Tamim Iqbal, and briefly Shakib Al Hasan. In the studio we have Zaheer Khan, but first and foremost, Joy Bhattacharya sitting pretty on that My 11 Circle expert couch. 330, just 3 runs away.
No, not, happy to be here, but not happy. I mean, it was a great match. And you know what I think? 10 years back, and this is the most interesting change I've seen, 10 years back, Bangladesh would have been celebrating this defeat. They would have actually said, wow, we scored 330, what a great occasion. Now they're saying, we lost this match. They won't celebrate. And that, I think, is a real change in Bangladesh cricket. They would say, we could have won this match. 10 years back, they would have been happy. Arey, 300 bana diya, one of our guys has got a century. Arey, we'll celebrate.
I think they would have been happy with even 250 in those days. But as you can see, when they won a match, they said it's not an upset victory. When they've lost a match, they said, no, we'll probably need to introspect. And you could see the fans also were in tears because they actually believed no matter what.
Well, they made Australians toil hard for this victory for sure. That was something which they should take pride in. It wasn't just a match where Australia dominated through and through. So that's something which is positive for Bangladesh from this match for sure. We always spoke about right throughout the game that if it's a 300 to 330, 340 game, Bangladesh will have a great chance, and they showed that. So that's something which we kept as a parameter after the first innings to judge this team, and this team is ready to fight, and they know how to build the total. That's for sure. And in the remaining matches as well, now that if they restrict the team to around par total, because today's wicket was of that, isn't it? Today's wicket was 330, 340 was about par on this track.
And you have to
the ground also has a huge reputation of high scoring ODIs here. So the wicket lived up to its expectations, and so does the two teams. It just the differentiator was Australia stick to the disciplined bowling, which was required to hold any team on this surface to pass score. So that's something that box they ticked nicely. And with batting, they made sure that they got those 40-50 extra runs on this track. They went above par. So that's something which was required, and they managed to achieve that, even though they had a slowish or a conservative start as we were expecting in that innings. But they finished well, so they did the basics right, as they've been doing in this competition so far, and making sure that they take those 2 points, and now sitting pretty at number 1 position.
Just this tells the story, because for the longest time we did a Cricbuzz Combox in the 35th over. The scores were identical. Yes, 3 wickets, but identical scores. And then it shows that big push at the end, that 41 to 50, 131 runs, that was the accelerator maybe that they didn't have.
That's the accelerator. That's where they had the firepower. That's where somebody like a Maxwell, you see that innings now, a run rate of 320. Nobody else is close to that. That is a differentiator. Somebody with that kind of power. And that's what Bangladesh missed and maybe did not have towards the end of the innings. And they gave away those extra runs. Maybe, as you said, that 41st over of Shakib, 42nd of Mashrafe, 25-30 runs in those 2 overs, and that's when the differentiator really happened.
And wickets in hand for Australia. That's another difference in that comparison.
I think you said it right at the start. I mean, you might have been thinking that, okay, Zaheer is just being a little generous to Bangladesh, saying, we've seen them play before, so they'd be happy chasing 330, 340. Hey, they got to 333. That's exactly the reason why you were saying that.
Exactly, and that's something which all the teams now in the competition, the remaining matches, they still have 3 matches to go, and they will be playing.
Most importantly, India.
India won, so we want that result to go India's way. But apart from that, if they will fancy their chances against Afghanistan and Pakistan for sure. So if they manage to win those, they still get to 9 points. So now the table is actually getting pretty much stabilized, and maybe in the next couple of days we will know where it's consolidating. It's consolidated nicely now at the top, with Australia reaching to 10 points and New Zealand reaching to 9 points. England and India, you are expecting them to win at least one game for sure, so that makes it 10 and 9 points, which makes it harder for these teams which are at the bottom half of the table. And from that point of view, then New Zealand West Indies game becomes very crucial. So if New Zealand manages to win that means they are on 11 points. So it's going to be very difficult for other teams to catch up. So as we are seeing that top 4, most likely I think it's going to be the top 4 which will remain going forward to the semi-finals.
The only difference would be the other team in yellow, which is Bangladesh. Mathematically, they can get to 11 points, but to get to 11, yes, we said Afghanistan, yes, Pakistan, but that big one, India versus Bangladesh, if they can upset India there, and I think with India's form, it's safe to say without any problems that would be considered an upset.
That would be considered an upset. I think definitely what the teams though they have to watch out for is exactly what Zaheer was saying, that 330, 320, 330, any total like that is not safe against Bangladesh. That's the thing that they have to realize. So, you cannot afford to, your batsmen cannot afford to get off that, pedal if you're batting first and say that, okay, 330, 335 is safe. You have to say, I've got to make it 370, 380, anything below that, and these guys have a very good chance against any bowling. Because this Australian bowling is about as good a bowling as you'll get. The Australian bowling, the Indian bowling, in conditions like this, maybe New Zealand bowling, these are the finer bowling attacks, and if they're getting totals like this.
Would Australia, when they finish this, get into that dressing room and say, look, job done? Or would you want to still look at that and saying that maybe should we have kept them to about 20, 30 runs, or the wicket was like that, as long as they didn't get anywhere close to us?
No, I think it was a disciplined bowling effort. You know when you score 380, it's a clear indication of how the wicket is playing. So you judge the whole effort based on that, and you know that at some stage they are going to come hard. So the only scenario where it doesn't happen in this fashion is when teams go really hard at the initial part of the innings and lose wickets. And then if you lose wickets at that early part in that first 10-15 overs, if you lose 3, then you're always way behind in the game. The moment that doesn't happen, then it just kind of evens things out, and you see the day like we saw today, where the bowlers have to work hard and keep absorbing that pressure through and through the innings and make sure that the job is done. And that's what Australian team did today.
Joy, sound familiar? We were talking about the Bangladesh of old. That's what they would have done. I mean, there are many names from that era that come to mind, but one sticks out, a chap called Aftab Ahmed, who was a very talented player, but his maximum allowed number of deliveries was 10 or 15.
Absolutely. And then
Come, smash it, and every time he hit about 3 sixes in that.
Yeah, but that's the point. This is a very different team, and that's what I'm saying. Every time there was danger, they had to bring Stark back. Stark was the one who kept coming back, getting them the wickets. Have a look at that. 5.5 in conditions where your team has gone for 6.5, 7 is really, really good. Also, he did what his captain needed of him, which is to come back and make breakthroughs, and that's really important. What the worry though they will have is the fact that Zampa, for whatever it is, went for 68, and Zampa is one of your 4, established bowlers. See, Maxwell and this thing together, Stoinis going for that many runs doesn't bother them that much. They'll go for 7.5, 8. But your 4th bowler, Coulter-Nile and Zampa would be their worries right now, because if they've not really had great matches, neither have they had today. So every time they've had a crisis, they've had to go back to Stark and say, come there, bowl, stop this, get a wicket, do something, and that's something that will bother them.
I guess the bonus on that side was they got a few more extra out of Stoinis, like Bangladesh got out of Shomer Sharkar. But I think going forward, if there had to be an area of concern, maybe they'd be thinking now, are we considering Nathan Lyon going forward?
I don't think so. I think, yeah, if at all, then it will be a likewise replacement to Zampa. I don't see any other change in that side now. That side is pretty much settled. Khwaja also got runs today. The only thing of some kind of debate will be around whether
3 and 4?
Yeah, 3 and 4 is something which they will be discussing. What's the best way forward with regard to batting lineup? Apart from that, I think they're looking pretty much a settled unit. You would be happy with Kultanayal's performance as well today. He was a better bowler on today's day, and used that slower one well. I think at the back end, this today's spell which he bowled at the back end of the innings will give him a lot of confidence, because you always going for someone like Pat Cummins and Stark, wherein someone like Kultanayal can come there, contribute those important overs, because we've seen now in World Cup, that last 15 overs is a very important phase of the match. Yes, we've been giving a lot of emphasis on the first 10 overs with those 2 wickets, but so far most of the teams have understood that, okay, not to give those 2 wickets. So they've been making very cautious start, most of the teams. So that first 10 overs is not resulting in 2 wickets consistently in this tournament. Initial part it happened, but now it's just kind of settling. That makes it now the last back end of the innings more crucial, and those last 15 overs you need at least 3 or if not 4 bowling options as a captain to maneuver your resources and create that pressure, because what you don't want in that last 15 overs is set batsmen lining bowlers up. So you have bowlers bowling. Gone are the days where bowlers used to bowl 4 overs in a row or 3 overs in a row in that death overs. Now it's become more of not letting batsmen settle or align a particular bowler after an over or 2. So they usually like to break it into 2 overs spell. At the most 3 overs is what we've seen. So that's something which a lot of bowling meetings will be revolving around these kind of tactics in tandem with the captain.
Zaheer mentioned during a Cricbuzz Combox that 9 and over, 10 and over, if you're leaving that for the last 10 overs, 12 overs, 15 overs, because of T20 cricket, that's the impact it's having. We saw a pattern in the IPL this time. The teams are willing to let 50 overs be left for the last 4 or 5 overs, 50 runs rather, being left for the last 4 or 5 overs, because of that new mindset.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And the size of the ground is the same. You see, once the target reaches that point, then you can treat it like a T20 match, So that's what they're trying to do. They're saying that, let's go in as deep as possible. And maybe that magic line is 12 or 11 or 12, somewhere there, and say that if last 5 I have even 12 to get, 60, I fancy my chances, I can go for it. 1 or 2 hits, because remember, 1-6 you hit in an over, 1 over you get 15-16, the run rate suddenly drops. And I think one is, the fact that these targets have become manageable. But the second is somebody like, take any of these top players, take for example a Glenn Maxwell. He'll be playing this kind of innings or innings in maybe 5 leagues around the world. So he's used to chasing 60 in 4, 60 in 5 in 5, 4, 5 leagues around the world. They have that experience also to chase that, which is not there before.
And that's the sort of chasing experience he brought, batting first, and hence took them to a big total. But he wouldn't have really got to 380 unless the man who we maybe criticized a little bit because of the standards he had set, David Warner, had actually made the number of runs that he actually did, and that got Australia to the final total. And hence, with that mountain of runs, he is our My 11 Circle MVP. 166 of 147 balls. Of course, it's more the runs and the strike rate that counts for those points. 14 fours, 5 sixes, many of them that came at the back end of the innings. But Warner did mention after the game that he thought the wicket was a tad slow, and you have to respect the new ball and respect the conditions in the first 10 overs. Maybe we felt he respected too much, but that's a different matter.
He's very respectful, but he must be. Look, take it for what you like. That you take that any time from your top batsman. He's given you that much, and you might tell him that you could have done a bit faster, but come on, who's going to fault him for
I
the
mean, let's just look at it as Warner 2.0 and just see that this is how he's going to approach his innings now going forward. And he's someone who is always going to take time up front and making sure that he's there and making these big runs. So if he's, like I said, if he's making these big runs, team wouldn't be complaining about it. So when you're in, you have to make sure that then the hundreds are not just about 100 or just missing 100. Then it should be big 100 like what we saw today.
Yeah, one also said if you get off to a flyer, then it's about assessing those middle overs and then taking it from there. So obviously thinking about the whole approach.
Yeah, but the interesting, because he said all that these questions have been asked. You're not the only people who are asking these questions. So that's interesting that he had to react to that. And yes, okay, we'll take his explanation.
And we weren't the only ones. As Joy mentioned, a lot of former Australian players were also questioning it, commenting on it and asking the questions. But we haven't forgotten, because I'm sure there are a lot of you out there who had David Warner as captain in your My 11 Circle team. One of you, certainly with that particular stat in mind, is our beat the expert champion Rana Ranjit Singh from Bihar. Rana ji, badhai ho. 453.25 points, maybe not such a pat on the back for the number of points, because we've had 500, 600 scored, so it was a close race. It wasn't a big target like Australia set Bangladesh, but nonetheless well done. Another quick look at the points table. We've seen it once, just to put things in perspective before we move forward. That's Australia now on top with 10 points, New Zealand, England and India behind them. We reckon that things are settling down nicely for these to be in the top 4, but the men in green and red will have other ideas. Bangladesh, really the only team with a good mathematical chance of winning their next 3 games, getting to 11 points. For everyone below that, well, it's just about playing for plenty of pride till the end.
The West Indies as well. West Indies has got that chance mathematically.
West Indies too, yes. One less game.
They'll have to win all the games, yes.
If they need to win all the games, certainly, yes. West Indies, in case you were thinking. Okay, looking ahead. One team definitely in there, one team definitely not. That's the contest coming up next. Match number 27. First time we're going to see action from Headingley in Leeds. We're moving further and further north. It all started down in Southampton, in London, in Bristol, in the west and the south. Now we move up north. Chester Street in Durham is also coming up. Headingley Leeds, England versus Sri Lanka. Now, never mind trying to talk about it as a one-sided contest. It's a contest with 2 teams playing for 2 very different things.
Now, at the beginning you said that it's moving upwards towards north. And that's not a good news for Sri Lankan team for sure, because if they were complaining about wickets when they were in south, imagine what they're going to
complain about the weather. It's too cold.
Yeah, because it's cold, and that means that there is going to be more help in the wicket. Leeds over the years have been known for producing a wicket which is helpful for the seamers. So it gives more advantage to England. Home conditions, they will be able to exploit those conditions better. Sri Lanka already has that kind of a mindset where they've been complaining about the wickets. So it might be another day for them to complain about the wickets. This is what how I'm looking at tomorrow's game.
England will have absolutely no complaints. A good workout against Afghanistan. Perhaps the one little niggle is that of Jason Roy, but they won't want to worry about that for the moment. They'll let him get fit. They've got enough people to do the job.
Absolutely. I mean, like India has already announced on Shikhar Dhawan, they haven't on Jason Roy, so obviously they're hopeful that he'll come back. They will want Vince to get runs up front, because I think that's the only objective that here they let Vince get runs up front, let him get some confidence, because their bowling is going fine, absolutely fine. Adil got some wickets in the last match. So then rest of it is just business as usual. Hope Vince gets a start. They'll probably tell him, take a little bit more time if you want to, but just go there and make it count.
Is there a reason, and just we're playing devil's advocate here, you don't want to touch a winning combination or tinker with it, but do England need to test out anybody in the middle? Because this is the stage, once you know that semi-final stage is sort of getting set, is there anybody in there that perhaps they need to test? We don't feel Liam Dawson, Tom Curran are contenders at the moment. Plunkett's played a couple of games. Adil Rashid, maybe now, if you're looking at not needing a second spinner with Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, look, but normally they keep Adil. They somehow want to keep Adil always. If somebody goes out, it'll be Moeen Ali for Plunkett. If they think the conditions favour seam, probably that's logical. But really, it depends. I mean, the kind of way they'll be looking at it, they'll be looking at saying that, we need to go out there, we need to, as I actually hate these words, go through our processes, play the method, play it correctly and we just do our processes right and we'll get it. And I think they're going to look at it as a very regular game, because for them this game is not going to make a difference this way or that way.
Moeen Ali, of course, has that extra suit added to it. We know it was always there. He got a chance to demonstrate it last time. We got plenty of taste of it in the IPL. And now he showed in that last game that while Owen Morgan was the hero, he actually finished things off. Some big hits there.
Absolutely. I think because of that, they will not tinker with that playing 11. You know, they would want to back Moeen Ali and give him more game time, because come semi-finals, you know, they might have to use his services. So I think England will start thinking in that direction now from here on in, wherein rather than playing the conditions, they would say, okay, we have enough resources, let's just look at stabilizing things in terms of playing 11. Roy is not going to be available, so that will be a straight swap for Vince whenever he's fit, if at all he's going to be fit. Apart from that, what are the options they have? You know, you have Tom Curran, who has not played so far in the playing 11. You have Plunkett, who has been part of it but was injured as well. So I think Wood and Plunkett are fighting for the spot. That's something, if they want to rest one of the bowlers and see what Plunkett, give some game time to Plunkett. If that's the thought process, then there will be a change. Apart from that, I'm not seeing any change in that playing 11.
Would it be blasphemy to suggest something like Moeen Ali tried as an opener? He's opened for a long time in ODI cricket for England and he was reasonably successful. Given Jason Roy being out for a while, does he give you that extra bit, or you want to be more settled with the James Vince?
I think that's exactly my point. You know, whatever little I know of Trevor Bayliss, he's not going to mess around now. He's going to say, these are the guys who are supposed to do the job, let them do the job. And you know, there's a great American saying which I also believe in: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, if it's not broken, why am I trying to fix something? So they won't tinker, because you know, we've seen it in the past when teams have tinkered and, you know, all sorts of things have happened. I mean, very famous case, Brazil, in I think one of the World Cups, 1930, they dropped Leonidas against semi-final to give him rest before the final. They got knocked out in the semi-final. So things like that can happen all the time. I don't think they'll risk.
I didn't know it was an American origin phrase. Somehow we've heard it so often. But is there a specific origin to it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it?
But ain't is very, very American also.
Okay. I really thought Joy would come up with that first particular game, maybe like that particular Brazil instance when it happened, and after that the rest is history. But maybe we'll try and dig that one up. Maybe Crick Rohit will give us an insight into that if you're listening. Sri Lanka, we haven't forgotten about you. There's of course two teams out there in the park, and they've had plenty of thought processes, plenty of tinkering to do. Malinga's gone, Malinga's come back, and of course we had a little bit of a controversy when they didn't complete their media formalities last time around, but at the moment things seem to be fixed. They are in Leeds, and once again the question we've asked from the start of the tournament, and now if everything is lost, why not Avishka Fernando?
Absolutely, I would play Avishka Fernando tomorrow, because
and my favourite, Jeffrey Van der Sey, he has to play.
I would throw in players now, because for nothing else, for the fact that let some new blood get blooded. If this is going to be the future of Sri Lankan cricket and saying these are the guys who are going to be playing in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, this tournament's gone. Let's give them some experience in the biggest stage in the world. And if by chance, you know, they get a 50, they get some runs, they get something under their belt, it's only a positive for Sri Lankan cricket forward. I think that's the way they've got to look at it. Say that, you know, let's go and throw ourselves at every team. Let's put a young side there. Let's put guys who are motivated rather than guys who are worrying about their place in the side, I think.
Fair call to say that, but can Sri Lanka really, I mean, we often look at tournaments like this, we look at the IPL, when you get to the last 8 or 10 games, a team who are absolutely at the bottom, you start talking about them as party spoilers. Now, does Sri Lanka have it in them to do that at this stage in the tournament?
Like I said, with this format, there are no party spoilers for sure. Even if anyone wants to be, I think it's
okay. Not maybe
the possibility of that happening is
not
very
maybe
slim.
to deny a semi-final spot. Party spoilers because you want to see 1, 2, 3, 4 where you want to finish. So someone might want to be at number 1, say India, England, Australia, all fighting for that top spot. Even New Zealand at the moment.
Well, who remembers that? Who remembers after 4, 5, 6, 7? It doesn't really matter. But I think as far as Sri Lankan cricket is concerned, you know, maybe they've found the right leader, because the captain has been making that effort of leading from the front in terms of scoring those runs as well. You know, he's one of their possibly the highest run getter for this tournament. So he has done his job. He's tried his best to lift the team up. But the fact of the matter remains that you've actually sent a very inexperienced squad. If you look at the last couple of years of Sri Lankan cricket, there has not been a particular method which was followed, which will give you some kind of chance of making an impact on this tournament. I actually had felt that someone like Lasith Malinga should have been captain of Sri Lanka, but when they've decided, okay, the Lasith is not going to be the captain and we are thinking of future, then yes, maybe Karuna Ratne is the right guy for future. But as far as Sri Lankan cricket is concerned, they'll have to do some structural changes for sure. There is that's a given going forward, and also finding that leader and some kind of stability in the squad as well. You have certain faces which have been playing for a long time, but they've not really taken their game to the next level at the international level, how the progression is supposed to happen. And when you have your experienced players in that kind of a phase, it's not the right kind of environment for youngster to really flourish and look up to. So I think once Mahela and Sangha had moved on from Sri Lankan cricket, I think that that hole which was left after that has not been filled, and that's something which they have to ask hard questions, figure out a roadmap, and then act on it and stick by certain decisions which will go a long way in terms of development of the team. Because with Sri Lankan cricket, you will always see potential. You've seen that in isolation, you look at the players, they'll play one odd innings here there will be performances of individuals, but as a team, for it to come together, I think there is a lot of work required as far as Sri Lankan cricket is concerned.
Yes, but of course that's a roadmap, that's the way ahead. They can't fix that by tomorrow. Yes, it's still tomorrow. They can't fix that by then. It's going to be Headingley where they're going to take on England. But your job remains the same. You need to fix your teams in case you haven't been up there in the 400-point range. So get that app downloaded and of course go to the team, go to that particular match, which is England v Sri Lanka from Headingley. Pick a captain, pick a vice captain, and keep that man's face in your mind because you've got to beat him. Of course, you can play the game for fun. But if you want to win 5 times the amount of cash, you've got to beat the expert, as in Saurav Ganguly. We've still got just one piece of work to do here, which is to unravel the mystery of Joy's question.
It's an interesting one. Zaheer will love it. I mean, this is a question basically from a test match which happened in 2018. What was unique about India's match against South Africa, the only time it happened in Indian test history? I have a very specific answer and I'm going to stick to that. And the answer is that both sides did not bowl a single over of spin in a full test match. That means, a lot of people have answered that all 20 wickets were taken by pace. That has happened before. But this is a test match in which not India playing, it's never happened that not a single over of spin has ever been bowled. And just fast bowlers on each side. In India, obviously it was a very famous victory. That was the one time where Bhuvi, Bumrah, Ishant, Shami all played together. And it was absolutely brilliant.
Yes, I was wondering because every time I was trying to think of that clue, it didn't occur to me at that time. Joy kept looking at Zaheer and saying, he loved the question, he loved the question. You like the question?
Yeah, clearly 20 wickets by the Pacers.
And not a single over bowled by a spinner.
Yeah.
I got nothing against spinners.
He just wants the wickets to come to pass.
Yeah. It's a bowling unit which has to work together, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think all of you fast bowlers out there would have been thinking along Zaheer Khan's lines and would have answered that all 20 wickets were taken by pace bowlers. But the real answer we were looking for is what Joy said, which is that not a single over of spin was bowled in the test match. Who is our winner today? And the answer is Ninad Indapurkar. @Indapurkar Ninad. That's a pretty simple one. Doesn't have any complications. No birth date given away. No phone number given away. So it's a hardcore answer. Did you have lots and lots of answers you had to sift through, which was 20 wickets?
Lots of answers, 20 wickets. Lots of people saying fast bowlers did everything. But I needed that specific thing that it's not that 20 wickets has happened before in India's cricket history also that fast bowlers have taken. There have been pitches like that. But not one over of spin being bowled on either side has never happened.
All right, just to wrap up, we'll wrap up with one final thought from Aaron Finch, who did say when Bangladesh were building their partnerships, he admitted there were a few butterflies. So it just shows that they still possibly can have butterflies for other teams and that maybe Australia have a few things to just put right.
Of course, I mean it was a very well fought game from Bangladesh for sure in today's match, and if Finch was feeling the pressure, it's again a reflection of how good the track was. You know, if you know that you have the kind of bowling attack which you have, and still you are not sure how the game is going to go, that means it was hard for bowlers today to go and bowl on the track.
Yes, for me, I will remember, I'll thank both our experts, Joy and Zaheer, and I will remember that as an old Tintin fan. I'll always remember this particular match as Flight 714. That's the number of runs that was scored. Entertainment on both sides, but of course, Australia were just a little bit better on the day. We'll see you again for England against Sri Lanka from Headingley. My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.